This is going to be the new player SSS Plus setup. I'll say that Astromancer Alena is a really hard boss to do as a new player, even if you have the banner unit. In this rotation, the banner unit is Rinak, and I'll show a run without Rinak and also one with her as well, just because a lot of people will probably have this unit. The reason it's hard is because the mechanics in this fight are really niche, and give us a pretty small pool of units to choose from. For the bare minimum free-to-play units, you're still going to need to build some units that only really get used here against Alena, though we've had the same mechanics for Alena twice in a row now, as well as all of the other bosses have been the same twice in a row, so maybe they're just going to keep these abilities, and you'll actually be able to use them every single time Alena pops up. So also, I'll be using the bare minimum units with pretty much barely any investment, though I will of course mention the upgrades or alternatives, so you can use those if you have them already. As usual, there's probably unequip next week, so I would wait until then to do your run so you don't need to spend any gold moving your gear around. First, let's take a look at the team restriction, which is just don't have any fire heroes in your team. This is really restrictive for free-to-play players because a lot of the options we want to use are all fire heroes, unfortunately, but we'll have to make do without them. Also, we want a thief hero in the back. This is just because this fight was made for Rinak, and she is a thief. I honestly, with this fire hero restriction, you might want to consider skipping this rotation. Just if you find that what I'll explain, all these units that we use, if you don't have any and you don't think that the cost to get some of these units or building them is worth it, then you can consider skipping this one and just waiting for the next one, where hopefully we can actually use a fire hero. It's also worth mentioning, of course, that Grace of Growth exists. It's just looking at my team here, these 3 units aren't used anywhere, and you can only Grace of Growth one of them. I did leave these 2 at level 50, so you don't need that much investment for SSS Plus, but you can take a look and think about it after I explain everything. So those are specific to this version of Alena, because it'll change when she comes back later. But for the mechanics that have been here every single time for her, or just past 2 rotations, or the past 2 versions rather, you need a unit with a bunch of AoE, and also a unit with counterattack buff. This has to be the actual buff, can't just be just a counterattack from counter set or something. That's where it gets pretty restrictive, because those are pretty niche things. Let's get into our unit options though. And like I mentioned, of course, use Grace of Growth if you need to, so you can save on unit resources for building them. First up is the front slot. You need a unit with counterattack buff here, so you can counter Alena after she uses her S2. If fire heroes were allowed, I'd say use Victorica, but since we can't, I'll be using Kikirat instead. The only other 3-star with counterattack buff is Helen, but her S3, where she gives herself counterattack buff, is a non-attack skill, while Kikirat and Victorica both AoE attack on the turn that they give themselves a counterattack buff, which is very, very necessary. That little AoE helps out a ton. Your other options are Senya and MLK who both also have AoEs, and then Arya and Evelyn also give themselves counterattack buff. They're just a little bit worse. So if you have those units, you could use them instead. Kikirat can be a little bit annoying to get. The only way you can get him is in the side story, Book of Memories, the Rainguard Chaotic Full Moon Festival. Other rewards from here is there's Midnight Bloom. It gives you 16% crit chance to all allies at max. Can be useful for crit chance boosting if you really need it. You also get unit imprints, though I wouldn't really use these, because Yuna is not very useful. Just hold on to them in case you need them for like an alternate uniform or something in the future. There's also otherworldly machinery, though this artifact doesn't really get used at all, so we can just ignore this. So that does cost 900 Skystones, so you'll have to think about whether or not you think it's worth using that to get Kikirat, plus Midnight Bloom, plus the unit imprints, if you don't have any of the other counterattack options. Also, because like right now we have no fire heroes, sometimes this team restriction is no duplicate elements or something, which would, if you have like a fire hero you want to use in maybe like your DPS slot or something, that could make it so you don't want to use Victorica here. So Kikirat could still see use in that situation. Anyways, that part is up to you. Next up is the AoE slot. During the fight, there's 2 ads with Alena. There's 2 of these guys. They have 6 skill nullifiers that we have to break. They will die to literally anything after the skill nullifiers are gone. And Alena herself, you need to hit 7 times before she uses her S2. I mentioned earlier, after she uses S2, we have to put up counterattack buff. And on that turn, when she uses S2, she'll push your front unit all the way up and reduce their S3 cooldown by 2, so you have a chance to put up your counterattack buff. But also you can use an AoE and actually just kill the ads on that turn. So that's why you only have to break the skill nullifiers. If you don't kill them, the ads are going to obliterate you. So you do need to make sure that they're dead after you put up your counterattack buff. Also, because we need to hit so many skill nullifiers, you need to hit the ads 6 times each, and then Alena herself also 7 times. That is why we decide to use a unit with ideally AoE on their S1. Yuna is the easiest one to get because you can just grab her from connections for pretty cheap. She is pretty useless outside of here though, which is why she's only level 50 and I didn't even 5-star awaken her. Also, specifically for this version of Alena, she's pretty nice for getting the 5 buffs for the bonus damage. That's not always going to be a thing, it's just specifically for this one. The 5 buffs for the bonus damage probably only matters if you're doing a non-Rinak clear as well. If you're doing it with Rinak, I'd expect you to be able to get SSS without having to bother with that. And then other units with AoE S1s are Holiday Euphine, Dizzy, Wukong, and Bellion. Abyssal Euphine also has a full AoE S1, but there's an issue with counterattacking when you end a break phase, so using her is pretty risky unless you only planned on doing a single phase in the first place. Depending on your DPS unit, and honestly how fast you can actually make your AoE unit, you might be able to get away with using a unit that has a multi-target S1 instead. In that case, Mercedes would be best in slot, but you can't use fire heroes right now anyways, so it might just be Vildred or Arbiter Vildred. Now that one is, the multi-target S1 is a lot more niche just because it's pretty tight to clear the skill nullifiers. So it might have to be a rotation where you have somebody that can use AoE on their S1 in the back slot instead. Anyways, next look at their healer slot. Here, you want a unit that has Cleanse, because you get hit with unhealable after Alena uses S3, plus a good amount of sustain. Unfortunately, we cannot use Achilles here because she has Fire Element, so I will be using Angelica instead. This is probably the best candidate here for Grace of Growth, because she is generally not used at all, and these 2 units are also not used, but I used them level 50. The thing with Angelica is we need her S3 Cleanse EE, so she has to be at least 5-star awakened, plus all her healing scales on HP. So 6-starring her would increase her healing output a lot, as well as the skill enhancements into her S2 and S3. So I would say she's probably the best candidate for Grace of Growth. The alternatives here are Amelia and Ray. Amelia S2 has the really nice offensive utility, though her healing is a bit worse, and then Ray just does a bunch of healing. Finally, our DPS slot. I'll be using Verdant Adin as the budget version. The best unit is probably just going to be Rinak. All the bonuses we get from Power of Hero benefit her way more than any other unit. Plus, the boss has a ton of defense during the break phase, so she'll do a ton of damage thanks to her Death Pen. She is on banner for a little bit longer at the time of this upload, so I would definitely consider rolling her if you haven't yet, because she is also really, really good in PvP. That is it for all the unit choices though, and now let us take a look at the stats very quick. Here's Kikirat. You can see I didn't even enhance him at all. She full Death Pens, so this is useless anyways. The main thing is his S3 is on a 3-turn cooldown, which can be nice here and there. You just gear him with a bunch of HP. The speed is up to you. You can see if you find yourself needing more speed to get more hits in time or whatever. You probably make him base speed, and I doubt it would be much of an issue. I'm using Adamant Shield for the damage reduction because this boss just does a bunch of crits, so you're pretty much permanently reducing all damage by 16%. Next up is Yuna. Yuna, I also don't have her skills enhanced at all. Level 50 3-star awaken. Don't have her EE equipped because she has to be 5-star awakened for that. I actually don't even know what her EE effects are. It's fine. You just want her decently fast with a good amount of HP. You can drop her HP a bit if you have Bloodstone to put here, or if you have a healing artifact. Actually, you can't use a healing artifact, so if you have Bloodstone here, you could look to maybe drop her HP a bit. But the HP is nice for sustain. Since I'm choosing to not use Bloodstone, I'll be using Warhorn instead. Next is Angelica, and this Angelica is actually not skill enhanced, because I had her built. This is a very old account. But if you had her in Grace of Growth, you'd have more healing, which would be nice. And you need her S3 Cleansey is the important part. Besides that, you can just give her a bit of speed, a bunch of HP, and Prophetic Candlestick is actually kind of mandatory here. We get hit a ton, so the odds of you proccing this are very, very high. It's just we need at least one proc in order for the cycling to work properly. And then we have Adin, who you want to ideally keep her crit chance below 43% if you can. If you crit, you'll do less damage in the fight, so you want to try to not crit. Boss has 50% crit resist, so since Adin gives herself 7% crit chance for free, not shown in her stats, you want to be 43 or lower ideally. Besides that, you can just give her a bunch of attack and a bit of HP so she doesn't die. A bit more HP than this might be nice, I just don't really have the gear for it. And then a little bit of speed is nice, maybe not necessary, depending on how fast your AoE unit is, but you can see what works for you. And then for our artifact, we will be using Cruel Mischief. That is it for the stats, and now you can take a look at a run. Starting off, we just have to remove the skill nullifiers, and then we can S2 for AoE. And beyond that, you can just keep on hitting Alena. We have enough AoEs to clear all of these skill nullifiers, no problem. So we're going to hit Adin to get the egg stacks up. Now I'm going to use Kikirat S3 to clear more skill nullifiers. That extra turn we got at the start with Adin being faster than Angelica is the only reason we even have S2 up here. So if you had your Adin slower than Angelica, you might want to be careful and use your S1 for Kikirat and Adin's S1s onto the ads instead. But here, we can just use S3, kill the ads, get counter buff, she hits us, we counter, and we are in the break phase. So we got one candlestick proc, pretty typical. Sometimes your S2 will be up here, but we can just S1 no problem. We're going to use Yuna S2. This gives Kikirat 3 buffs so far. We can use Angelica S3 to give him 5. This now gives Adin target weakness greater. We can use S3. Heal up a little bit. And now we can use S1. And we already hit SSS plus, so that's all you really need for SSS plus. It's just one phase. I don't think I can actually clear a second phase, but we might as well just play this out. I'm going to use S3 first for the healing here. Since we don't get the extra turn, we are not going to be able to cycle S2 back up anyways. And we also have to check our hits. Yuna, and then Adin is going to use S2, so I'm just going to S1 the Ad instead. Don't know who needs the healing more here. We're just gonna auto press the button. Hopefully Yuna survives. It's not looking too hot for her though. So we are going to take a look. 89. It looks like we're going to move, or have Alena move right before the ads. If the ads move first, then we are not going to have a good time. We needed that hit to get her to 65 anyways, but this makes it so that the ads won't attack Yuna. She might die to Alena anyways. Okay, we managed to barely survive, so I guess we're doing a second break phase. Let's also check here. We have one more turn on the Angelica S2. On the Angelica S3 rather, so an S2 there. A little bit more scuffed because of our turn orders here, but not much we can really do about that. Hero S3. Now she's got her target weakness greater, and we can use our Adin S3. And I guess we're ending the break phase. And we are looking very dead. Definitely doable if we had things like a not level 50 Kikirat and a not level 50 Yuna. I think that alone would have been enough for us to actually clear these. Actually, we can just barely enter here. We just won't have enough enough buffs to get the full damage boost. But even just having those level 60 would have made us go pretty far. Oh, never mind. We're dead. But yeah, it got us SSS plus anyways, so it's whatever. And that's also good enough for only the top 12%. I think if we did one more break phase, we would surely be within the top 10%. This is it for the non-Adin, or the version using Adin though. I'll quickly do a run with Rinak. Now for the Rinak version, I honestly think it's kind of more awkward with Rinak. I scored a little bit lower, but here are her stats for now. And this is her stats. Really, I just gave her a bunch of attack plus a bit of HP with Cruel Mischief as the artifact. And now we can take a look at the run. So we're just going to remove all the skill nullifiers. And the reason I think Rinak is kind of awkward, just because she takes a bunch of extra turns, and a lot of her damage is more spread out, which we got her Candlestick proc already, which is nice. But you'll see here, she just kind of cycles through extra turns, and that makes it a little bit awkward sometimes, where she's giving Alena a lot more CR than Adin. And also, because she has no AoE, and we have our Yuna pretty slow, that does make it a little bit harder to get rid of these skill nullifiers compared to doing it with Adin. Because Rinak does get her extra turns, and she can clear no skill nullifiers by just spamming extra turns, but that gives Alena a bunch of CR, so... Here we need to... It's gonna go 70. So we're gonna hit Alena twice, hit one of the ads once. Gonna hit this guy. Now we're gonna hit this guy. And we can break the skill nullifiers just in time. Kikirat S3s. Kills the ads. Alena hits back. And now we are in the break phase. One more turn on our S3. We're just gonna S1 for now. We want to wait until we get the big damage boost. Now we S3. That does unfortunately remove all of our buffs. So we're gonna S2 to get attack buff back. Do an S1 hit. And just like that, we have SSS plus. And back out of the break phase we go. And just like that, I am already dead, just because Angelica sustained. So, yeah, that's it for the non-Rinak version. It'll just be about 7.6 million for me. Or that's it for the Rinak version, rather. That is it for this guide. This boss is just really rough. It's just that counter-attack buff. You have so few units you can use. And then eating AoE is also pretty annoying. Yeah, this boss is just rough. There's not much else to say about it. Definitely one of the harder bosses with small hero pools. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.